Okay, so I think the best way to have less good and welfare is to create the conditions where folks don't need to come here and share their opinions. So I think that's where we should start rather than trying to fix the be over prescriptive in the ordinance for 90 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever. If we don't have things for folks to come and talk to us about, they won't come. So I think that's where we should start. In terms of a minimum of 60 minutes, I don't like that because what if we don't have 60 minutes of good and welfare? So I think it should be open-ended. In terms of the camera and name requirement, I think there are some people who may not have access to a camera. We have to take into account the unintended consequences of requiring things like these. There might be folks who don't even know how to go into Zoom and change the name. It just becomes very, we're going to have unintended consequences if we do this, where we are those who have less access to resources will be impacted. And I know that's not your intent in creating this recommendation. So I would like to not change the way that we've done things. I don't like the hour max. I'm sorry, the hour minimum on good and welfare. I think when people come here, we should hear them. They're all entitled to their 3 minutes. Moreover, we have been getting inundated with emails. Usually I would say, okay, if you can't get to us on good and welfare, send us an email. 5,000 plus emails a day. We can't read all the emails anymore. And so now folks have to come here to hear from us because they're not getting their emails responded to in a short enough period of time. So I think we just have to be really thoughtful about anything that we implement based on the current status. This isn't what it's going to be every single day. I think we are in a very unique period of time. I hope we can get past this. But the reality is when people come here, they want to speak to us and we should listen to them.
This
I am a
belt.
Teaneck resident for over 30 years. I went to Teaneck High School. As I said last time, there is much use of Black history being used to justify varying perspectives, but many don't seem to fully understand that the United States became the melting pot that many of you seem to believe we live in through violent protest, often, unfortunately. Law has never been an example of morality, righteousness, or justice for Black Americans. Slavery was legal. Redlining was legal. Segregation was legal. The Casual Killing Act allowed white people to kill us with impunity. The only way that any of that changed was through consistent illegal and often violent protests. Those protests were to hold the USA accountable for denying its Black citizens the right laid out in the amended Constitution to resist a tyrannical nation, a fascist nation, and a theocracy. We do not live in a theocracy. When I first was moved to Teaneck with my parents, I moved here and I enjoyed wonderful relationships with my Jewish community members. I went to the JCC. I learned everything about the Jewish community, and we had robust conversations and discussions about Black Americans, about Black history, about Palestine, and Israel. Those conversations are absent in this moment because many of the citizens having these conversations fail to have solidarity with their Black citizenry in Teaneck, New Jersey. We are having a town council meeting and we're taking 3 minutes to tell you things, but we are not talking to one another. When Philip Pinnell was shot, we had a town council meetings where we talked to each other. And Black people explained our point of view, and white people understood, and there were white allies and advocates, and it was the melting pot that we worked to create. We cannot simply give speeches and yell from our outrage. We have to create an environment of understanding and solidarity between members of the community, even if we disagree vehemently about international politics. I will only say this to my Jewish brothers and sisters that live here in Teaneck, New Jersey. We in the United States do not live in a theocracy. So it is hard for many people to understand, although I understand what you're saying about your indigenous nature to Israel. Many people in the United States have a hard time understanding the theocratic understanding of Israel. We have to have conversations where education is afforded and where people are able to say what is real and what isn't. But to say that you're going to silence protests and force people to stop speaking because it makes you uncomfortable, discomfort is not a threat. Discomfort is just discomfort. I just want to leave everybody with that. We need to be talking to each other and having deeper conversations so that we can come to some form of solidarity and understanding in Teaneck. Because as a person said last week, we are not going to solve the Middle East in Teaneck, but both sides are bringing outside people in to support their point of views. That is not helpful to us. But those outside people are here to support ideas that we all hold, and we justify their outside presence when we need them. I wonder if my Jewish brothers and sisters would feel that it was outside agitators if the town council of the United States and Israel was protesting
the
against
time. Noam Schneck, Teaneck resident for 7 years. Sometimes it feels like there's just a lot of words that need to be clarified. And I'm hoping to provide some clarification because there seems to be this wonder about why parts of the Jewish community are responding to the protests the way that we're responding. And there's been accusations leveled that we're maybe uncomfortable seeing certain types of people gathering, or maybe it has to do with people's race, religion, or skin color. So I want to talk about specific phrases that I heard at the March 10th rally, and explain that these phrases are extremely disturbing to us. The first phrase is globalize the Intifada. The Intifada was a war against Jews for being Jews. It was a war. I have a friend, Yoni Jesner. He was a friend of mine in 2003, got on a bus. He was killed in the Intifada. Nobody argued about what the Intifada was. That was what the Intifada was. So when people say globalize the Intifada, I have a reaction to that. I have a friend who was killed in the Intifada. When people say there's only one solution, whatever, one solution, the final solution, right? When people say there's only one solution, Intifada revolution, I hear the final solution. Maybe I'm paranoid. I really don't think I am. But thanks for the vote of support, Rich. I don't think I'm paranoid. I think one solution, final solution, it's not a stretch. It's not a stretch. And when people are saying that, that is evoking the Holocaust. I don't think that that's a stretch. When people say from the river to the sea, I have tons of family that live in Israel. From the river to the sea means they won't have anywhere to live. Now, I know that there are those who argue, no, they'll live happily in a glorious Palestinian state, but we don't really see that reality. So okay, everyone says they don't consider themselves a racist. I don't consider myself a racist. I was critically involved in organizing a wonderful Teaneck event in 2018 after the horrible events, the Christchurch massacre. We had a beautiful gathering in the Dar al-Islah mosque. The whole community got together as a model of what Teaneck should be. And perhaps we can get back to that if we can get back to understanding each other's words. So I'm coming here not to be confrontational, not to argue. I'm coming here to explain. These are the words I hear. These are the words we hear, and these are the reactions we have. If you feel we're misunderstanding, misinterpreting, come talk to me. I'm happy to listen. I'm happy to hear. I want to hear what people have to say. There's one final word I've heard is normalization, which is this concept that you can't speak to Zionists, that I've heard from, okay, well, I don't think I can get into that.
Please let the record represent that I am wearing a chicken suit. I didn't want to come here tonight. I stayed up till 1:30 last time watching on Zoom to see what all you would say to everyone here who came and who spoke on Zoom, and everything was repeated and everything is tired and I'm tired and you're tired. We're all tired. So let me just do the local stuff first. Chickens, do it. I'll embarrass myself for you. I don't care. Do it. I support safe streets. The complete streets thing, that sounds awesome. We should totally go forward with that. But since I don't take myself seriously, I want to say something serious to you. I was struck by what Deputy Mayor G said a couple minutes ago about how we need to create the conditions that people stop showing up to complain about everything. And I think that that's on you guys, right? Like everything that you do affects one of us somehow. And we're going to come here and we're going to complain about it, whether that's limiting my property right to have some chickens in my backyard, whether it's limiting my neighbor's property right to build a duplex, whether it's making some sort of outward display that causes some sort of political ire, regulating some kind of new business. All of these things that you do are inviting this. And we're inviting it to various degrees, right? We're inviting the entire world's attention right now. There's an Al Jazeera reporter recording me saying this. Why is Al Jazeera reporting on a Teaneck municipal meeting? Right? Al Jazeera is an international news agency, and they're standing here in Teaneck looking at a guy in a chicken suit talking to a bunch of local politicians. Stop regulating us. Stop regulating me. Stop making statements. Council speech should be limited to the things that are germane to running this town and this town only. We've made lots of mistakes with that in the past. From today forward, no more resolutions. Ordinances only, or I don't know, maybe I can be corrected on the legalities of that. I don't really know how one works or the other one does. Don't say anything except thank the guy who helps kids cross the streets, and thank the police officers, and thank the firemen when they're retiring, and make a street name for a local notable. That's great. Do that. That's town stuff. Don't talk about national politics. Don't talk about local politics. Don't spend money on all kinds of things that we don't need, right? Just do, I've said it before, I'll say it again, do the things for us that we elect you to do. Pave our streets. Talk about our recycling. Talk about whether or not our streets are safe enough for pedestrians. I'm a pedestrian. I like walking around in Teaneck. One day a week, I can only walk around in Teaneck. I would like to not get hit by a car on that day. I'll put in for a stop sign at the corner of Grayson and Prince again, even though I know that that's not allowed. Just please, I come here as ridiculously humble as possible to say stop. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Jesse. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Darrell Green, Teaneck resident since 1976. Teaneck, I'm very concerned. We've really come to a place now that is very troubling. This is not the Teaneck that I grew up in. Last Wednesday, we had some architects do a presentation. I'm about trying to rebuild Teaneck, not tear it down. Architects from the Smith Group did a presentation to Teaneck stakeholders. I want to thank Rabbi Friedman. I want to thank our school superintendent. I want to thank our town manager. I want to thank the Northeast Teaneck Block Association. I want to thank Mazia Usamani of the Dar es Salaam Mosque on Route 80, who sent his representative. We had 20, maybe 25 stakeholders on a Zoom call to talk about building a unified structure here in Teaneck, not on the municipal green, but a unified structure that everyone can get involved with. No one person should stand superior over another. This is something that we feel the whole town should be involved with. For those who do not know, the Smith Group are the architects who built the African American Museum in Washington, D.C. They are interested in coming to Teaneck and doing something here in Teaneck to help unify our community. We've had so much negative press. People are afraid. People are wondering, hey, what will Teaneck be like for my kids? It's difficult to get people to want to invest in Teaneck right now. I want to see how we can try to rebuild our community and come up with something that we can work on together. The Smith Group is willing to come here to Teaneck at the appropriate time and do a presentation to council. These gentlemen have designed buildings that surpass value of $45 billion. So I think that they can come up with something that can fit the needs and be something that we can all be proud of. On another note, I'd like to talk about a possible street naming for someone that is near and dear to my heart. When I was in Teaneck High School, he was the vice principal of Teaneck High School. His name was Robert Elmo Wright. We all called him Mr. Wright. He was probably best known for his detentions, but Mr. Wright made sure that his kids walked across that graduation line. I'd like to see if we can do a street naming for Mr. Wright, possibly sometime in the spring. His family is still around. Mr. Wright is deceased, but he was loved by thousands. Thousands loved Mr. Wright. I know Elizabeth Place has the Black Lives Matter
Thank you,
sign,
Mr.
but
Green.
if we could do it on Cranford.
Thank you, sir.
Rockland, Teaneck resident. It's actually my first time speaking here, normally on the Zoom side, but I was very excited that we have a resolution on the agenda tonight for complete streets. Now, my son at home is 4.5 years old. He recently learned a joke in school. And it goes like this: why did the chicken cross the road? Now, the answer is not in his mind to get to the other side. It's to not get hit by a car. And the reason that that's where he takes that joke, at least some of the time, I'm trying to get him to say the normal joke, is because when he was about 2.5, my wife was pushing him across the street at the intersection of Queen Anne and State Street, and a car making a right turn hit them. And that car was turning right on red. That car was luckily not going very fast. The person stopped. TVAC and the Teaneck Police Department responded appropriately. And thank God they are free of any physical injuries. But very obviously, it is still affecting my son 2 years later, more than 2 years later now, I think. And, you know, I just bought a house right across the street on Golf Court. We're excited that we're going to be moving in there shortly. When I hear about cars speeding down Country Club Road or Bennett Road, that worries me. And we hear about how, you know, the police department can do a better job enforcing speeding laws, that they can do a better job ticketing people for all kinds of reasons. But at the end of the day, they're not going to stop all the cars. You know what does stop cars? You know what does actually help the problem? Designing streets for slow speeds, designing streets for all users so that people, whether they're old, young, children, the elderly, adults, children, whether they roll on a wheelchair, on a scooter, on a bike, whether they drive, are sitting in the passenger seat, or riding a bus, or whether they use their feet to get around, are safe in the streets. That's what Complete Streets is all about. And so I look forward to the day where our chickens can be running in the street. No, that's a little bit much, but I look forward to the day where, you know, we can all trust that no matter how we get around, that our streets are safe. And I really, really thank you all for taking this seriously, for leading. In Bergen County, there was a rush of a bunch of towns a bunch of years ago who jumped on the Complete Streets bandwagon. Our neighbors in New Milford, in Bergenfield, did this a long time ago, and it was just words on paper. And so I implore you tonight to pass this resolution 7-0, and then make sure that this is actually something that gets implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Spilcher. Okay, thank you, neighbors, for coming out and voicing your concerns. I just want to start out by saying a quote by Martin Luther King that is, every man of humane convictions must decide on the protest that best suits his convictions, but we must all protest. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. In spite of temporary victories, violence never brings permanent peace. Peaceful protests, civil disobedience is a pillar of our democracy. These tools, such as protests, was used during the civil rights movement that brought about change, lasting change. The very man that we're quoting today was a staunch advocate of civil disobedience and protests of the people by the people. It's important that we don't talk past each other, but rather we have compassion for our neighbors. We have tolerance for our neighbors. Leadership means answering to a higher standard, as difficult as it might be for some. Let's be about the people of Teaneck. I feel strongly that we stop talking past each other, but we rather talk to our subject matter experts, our attorney, our chief of police, our DPW, our township manager. These are the people that are our subject matter experts. It's not running to the state of New Jersey, nor is it running to the federal government to solve for our divide, but it's rather us doing the hard work, doing the hard lift. Living together means that we talk to each other and we try to solve for difficult problems. American democracy says that we as Americans have the right to peaceful protest and civil disobedience. Good and welfare should be about the business of the people. I will always be on the side of the Constitution. I will always support the enforcement of laws that we have on our books now. How much do we want to do and to be about the people's business? I know I want to handle things like potholes and leaf collection and affordable housing, but in these last 6 months, we haven't been about the people's business. So I encourage my colleagues that we find a way back. I denounce and always have denounced hatred of all types. Hatred cannot live in Teaneck. We are better than that. I suggest that we all seek means to engage with each others by attending events like Tea Talks and Teaneck Race Amity Peacemakers events. That one is being held tomorrow night at the Baha'i Center, and that we be about returning to the people's business. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belcher. Ms. Ford?